To discuss this now, we're joined by Dr. Bjørn Lomborg, the author of The Skeptical Environmentalist, and Robert Napier, who's the Chief Executive of WWF UK. Bjørn, first of all, surely, hi, how are you doing? Now listen, surely all these ecologists and concerned people around the world cannot be wrong. The planet is in grave danger, and climate change is one of the most serious problems facing us, is it not?
The thing that I try to point out is, yes, we do have a problem, but it does not necessarily make sense to say, since we have a problem, we have to attack this problem. If the cure is actually more expensive than the original disease, we shouldn't do.
And you're saying ignore the problem?
No, what I'm trying to say basically is the Kyoto Treaty, which they're trying to rescue now in Bonn, will do almost no good. All models agree on this. It will basically postpone warming for about 6 years in 2100. On the other hand, it will be enormously expensive. It will cost $150, $350 billion. That's 3 to 7 times the amount of global aid we give to the third world. Since this is mostly going to harm the third world, we have to ask ourselves, couldn't we do much better in actually helping the third world directly now when they're poor?
Interesting. What do you make of that? You know, a lot of money to get the Kyoto thing going. Far better to spend the money on the people who need it.
Various points I'd make, Jeremy. Firstly, that Kyoto is only step one. Kyoto is only for the period to 2010. What we require thereafter is further reductions in CO2 emissions. Point two, I don't agree with Bjørn that there's a serious cost to Kyoto. To put it in very simple terms, if you're driving a gas-guzzling car emitting lots of CO2, if you change that for a more fuel-efficient car, which I suggest you do, it's a win-win situation. It's not a high cost because you will both reduce the CO2 emissions and gain economic benefits. WWF believes that a substantial part of what's in Kyoto can be achieved at no significant economic cost.
Well, and that's good for all of us, isn't it? Including the people in the third world.
It would be wonderful if that's true, but that's not. The UN climate panel, who's actually publishing their 3-volume report today, tells us that it is going to cost around $150 billion. That's their own medium estimate. And yes, there are these studies that show, hey, we can actually all save money. Of course, the question is, why wouldn't we be doing that now if that was true? The other point, of course, to say, if Kyoto is only the first step, we should also look ahead and say, are these good steps to take? And since the first step is not a very good investment, it actually turns out also the rest of the steps would be even more expensive to do.
Aren't you, in a sense, making something of a false argument? Because, quite frankly, if the money doesn't go into Kyoto, it's not going to, let's be realistic, it is not going to go to the people in the third world who certainly could need it, certainly deserve it.
Well, we have, as I see it, as scientists, we have to present the best possible information to make a democratic decision. Now, global warming is basically about helping the third world. Up to 2 or 3 degrees Celsius temperature increase. The IPCC tells us it's not really going to harm the developed world, but it will harm the developing world. So we have to ask ourselves, do we want to help the developing world a little, 100 years from now, in an ineffective way, or do we actually want to help them effectively now when they need it?
Lots of very quickly from
Jeremy, I accept the need to help the developing world, but let's not forget the developed world. Look at our recent weather patterns. Climate change is real and affecting us now, and Kyoto is imperative to take action now.
This is going to run and run. Thanks for joining us, James.
It is 9:15. You're watching Breakfast from BBC News.